Your life feels like a series of choices you made freely. Every career move, every relationship, every habit you picked up along the way, all of it feels like yours. But what if the deepest patterns of your life were already written before you took your first breath? Decades of twin research have uncovered something that shakes the very foundation of how we understand identity. And by the end of this, you'll see your own recurring life patterns in a completely different light, as evidence of something far more intentional than random chance. In 1979, two men named Jim met each other for the first time. Jim Lewis and Jim Springer had been separated at birth, adopted by different families in Ohio, and raised with zero contact for 39 years. When researchers at the University of Minnesota brought them together, what they found defied every conventional explanation. Both had married women named Linda, both divorced and remarried women named Betty. Both named their sons James Allen. Both had worked in law enforcement, drove the same car, vacationed at the same beach in Florida, and bit their fingernails down to the same pattern. Coincidence collapses under that weight. Thomas Bouchard, who led the Minnesota study of twins reared apart, spent over 20 years documenting cases like the Jims. Hundreds of identical twins, separated in infancy, raised in completely different households, different cities, sometimes different countries. And yet their lives echoed each other with a precision that made seasoned researchers uncomfortable. Twin sisters who both developed the habit of pushing up their noses with the palm of their hand, something they each called squidging. Twin brothers who independently became volunteer firefighters. Twins who chose the same obscure profession, married spouses with the same first name, developed the same medical conditions at the same age. The materialist explanation points to genetics, shared DNA, shared tendencies, and genetics does account for some of it. But DNA codes for proteins. It builds biological machinery. It influences temperament and predisposition. What it cannot explain is why two people would independently name their dog Toy, choose the same brand of cigarettes, or wrap presents in the exact same unusual way. Those are specific behavioral expressions, not broad genetic tendencies. So what's actually happening? Consider the possibility that consciousness itself carries information. That before you entered this body, before environment and culture and parenting had their say, a pattern already existed. A frequency. A signature that would express itself through whatever circumstances it encountered, adapting its form, but maintaining its essence. Neville Goddard taught that imagination is the creative force of reality, that the individual you experience yourself to be is an expression of a deeper awareness, choosing to know itself through a particular pattern. The twin research doesn't contradict this, it illuminates it. Two expressions of the same consciousness, placed in radically different environments, and the pattern still emerges, still finds its way to the surface like water finding cracks in stone. This reframes everything about your own life. Those recurring themes you notice, the same type of relationship appearing again, the same creative impulse returning no matter how many times you try to be practical, the same deep knowing about what you're meant to do that won't leave you alone no matter how much you ignore it. That persistence has a source. Your blueprint is speaking. The skeptic in you might say, maybe twins just share biological wiring that produces similar outputs. Fair. But biological wiring doesn't choose a dog's name. It doesn't select a vacation destination. It doesn't produce the same obscure hobby in two people who never exchanged a single word. The specificity of these parallels points beyond mechanism into meaning. Something is organizing experience at a level deeper than neurons and synapses. The Kybalion speaks of the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. The pattern that exists in consciousness will mirror itself in physical expression. Every time. Without exception. The twin studies a correspondence make visible. Two mirrors reflecting the same inner light, and the reflection is so precise that researchers had to invent new statistical categories to describe what they were observing. Now here's where this gets personal, and where the real inner work begins. You have a blueprint too. You felt it. That pull towards something specific that makes no logical sense given your background. That strange familiarity when you encounter certain ideas, certain places, certain people, as if you're remembering rather than discovering. The mainstream narrative says you're a blank slate shaped entirely by experience. The twin research demolishes that narrative with data. You arrived with something already intact, but recognizing your blueprint and living from it are two very different acts. Most people feel the pull and then immediately consult their environment for permission. They check whether the pattern they carry is realistic, whether it's practical, whether other people will approve. And in that moment of checking, they hand authority to the very thing that was never meant to have it. Environment is the stage, it was never meant to be the script. Neville's technique of living in the end becomes deeply relevant here. If consciousness carries a pattern that will express itself regardless of circumstance, then your job is alignment. Your work is to stop resisting the blueprint and start cooperating with it. To feel its shape clearly. To assume the state of the person who is already living what the blueprint describes. The twins didn't try to coordinate their lives. They didn't effort their way into matching. The pattern expressed itself through them because there was no resistance to it. No one told Jim Lewis that naming his dog Toy was unrealistic. No one told the twin sisters that squidging was impractical. The expression was effortless because it was natural, the consciousness simply doing what it does when unobstructed. Your resistance is the only variable. Think about that. The twin research shows that when the same consciousness meets different environments, the pattern still wins. Environment bends to the blueprint, given enough time. So the question for you becomes, what are you resisting? What keeps trying to emerge through you that you keep pushing back down because it doesn't match your current circumstances? The discipline here is the discipline of trust, of knowing that what keeps returning to your awareness, what keeps nudging, what keeps whispering, carries the authority of your deepest nature. And your deepest nature, as the twin studies reveal with startling clarity, is more powerful than any environment it's placed within. This requires a daily practice. Each morning, before the noise of the world rushes in, sit with the question, what is trying to express itself through me today? Feel for the pattern. Let it show you its shape without immediately filtering it through logistics and limitation. The blueprint communicates through desire, through fascination, through that quiet certainty that lives beneath your doubt. And when doubt arrives, because it will, remember the Jims. Remember that two men with zero contact, living completely separate lives, express the same pattern down to the names of their wives and children. The organizing intelligence behind that level of specificity doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't send unclear signals. Your doubt is noise. The pattern is signal. The Hermetic tradition teaches that mind is the fundamental substance of reality. Matter arranges itself according to consciousness, not the reverse. Every twin study that documents these impossible parallels is documenting this principle in action. Consciousness first. Expression second. Always in that order. So stop waiting for your environment to validate what you already know. Stop asking your circumstances for permission to become what you already are. The twins didn't need permission. The pattern expressed itself because it's the nature of consciousness to express itself. Your blueprint is equally determined to emerge. The inner work is simple but demanding. Catch yourself every time you consult external reality for evidence that your inner knowing is valid. That consultation is the resistance. The pattern doesn't need evidence. It needs space. Give it space by assuming, fully, persistently, without negotiation, that what you feel pulling you forward is already accomplished in consciousness. Neville called this the Sabbath. The deep rest that follows complete acceptance of what imagination has shown you. Your life's recurring themes are breadcrumbs your blueprint left for you. Follow them. The twins followed theirs without trying, because no one told them to resist. You've been told to resist yours for years, decades probably. Every practical voice, every cautious advisor, every fearful thought, all of it teaching you to mistrust the very pattern that makes you who you are. Today, choose differently. Choose the blueprint over the circumstance. Choose the inner knowing over the outer evidence. Choose to live as though the pattern you carry has already won. Because if twin research teaches us anything, it's that the pattern always wins. Given time and space, consciousness expresses what it came here to express. The only question left is how long you'll make it wait.